morning, everyone. Today is Thursday. It is April 23 or April 23rd. So if today is number 23, yesterday is the day that happened right before it. So let's see what number comes right before 23. Very good. Number, say it with me, 22. Excellent. 22 has double twos. All right, so today is 23. Yesterday was 22. Tomorrow is the day that hasn't happened yet. It's the next day that's going to happen. So if today is 23, oh, look what we have. There is a birthday cake here for tomorrow. Someone in your class is going to be turning 5 years old. And tomorrow will be, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, that is today, and tomorrow will be 20, very good, 24. So one of your classmates will be turning 5 years old tomorrow on April 24th. Tune in tomorrow, we'll see whose birthday it is. Maybe that person will join us on our morning meeting and we can all sing happy birthday together. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Very good. So, have your binoculars ready? You've been doing some bird watching. Today our bird watching is going to be a little bit different. I'll explain about that in just a few minutes. Instead of the Bible story today, we are going to be doing page 99 from your religion book of lesson number 25. That lesson is called Belonging to a Special Family. Now you know about the family that you live with. Okay, the people who live in your home with you, and it might even be mothers and fathers of them as well, grandparents, sometimes uncles, sometimes cousins. All of those people are your family. And as a family, the job of a family is to watch over one another, to love one another. And sometimes being part of a family means the other people do wonderful, helpful, caring things for you. But as part of a family, you do those things for each other. You watch over one another. You help one another. You teach one another. You give them hugs and you make sure that they feel like they belong and that they feel safe. Okay, and you also help each other to learn. You've been doing a lot of that lately, right? Your family has been helping you to learn, and you've been teaching them some of the things that you know as well. So today we're going to be learning about becoming part of an even bigger family, and that is God's family. We know that God is our creator. God made us, and God made us in a very, very special way. And he made the other people that you live with in a very special way too. So chapter 25, which is called Belonging to a Special Family, talks about our church family, our family with God. And it says, your family loves you very, very much. Your family brought you to be baptized, and now you belong to a special family of the Catholic Church. Now during this time right now when we're trying to stay healthy and try to keep our social distancing from each other, we haven't been able to go into the building of the church. But we can listen to Mass on our social media, on some of the websites. We can even FaceTime with our church community. And it's really important that we stay connected with the people in our church because we can help one another. I know that we did have some food drives this year at school where we brought in food for people in our community who might have been hungry. And we do all kinds of things for people. As part of a community, we work together and we share our gifts that God gave us to help one another. So when you were baptized, and over here it says there is a baby in this picture that's being baptized by the priest. Okay? And when we're baptized, it's a special way. We have symbols of water and oil and the cross. Very often we wear the color white, and it's a special sacrament, a special way that Jesus is with us, in which we become a member of the Catholic Church. We become part of that larger family. So not only do you have your own family that you live with that helps you to learn and to grow, and you help them, but you now also have this bigger family. That's your Catholic Church family. Okay? And on this page, it's asking you to talk with your family today. Who was at your baptism? Think about that. I know who was at my baptism. I have an Aunt Alda and an Uncle Lucian. They were at my baptism. My brothers and sisters were there. I had my mom and my dad were there. My grandparents that lived upstairs from us, they were there. And I bet my Aunt Pauline and Uncle Norman and a couple of my cousins were there as well. I still have my baptism dress somewhere in my closet. I'll have to look for that, and maybe I can take it out and show you what I wore when I was baptized. Some of us are baptized as babies. Some of us are baptized when we are older. But if you have a picture that you'd like to share of your baptism, that would be really nice. And maybe you can bring it to a morning meeting and show your friends. Okay? Tomorrow we will turn the page, and tomorrow we'll work on page 100, and it talks about the day that Jesus was baptized and who baptized him. So today, share that special story about your baptism with your family. Okay? Right now, we have Crystal Ball, who will be coming on to say hello, and I'll see you in a little bit after that.
Magic, magic, magic ball, please help me to see them all. Shine your light so nice and bright. Tell me now who's in my sight. I see Mason and Chase and Haley from Mrs. LaFawn's class and Jared from Miss M's class, Colton from grade 1 and Annie from grade 2. Have a thunderous Thursday, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye.
We're going to write the numbers 7 and 8 today, and you should have that paper inside the packet that was sent home with you last time. If not, you can work on your Draw and Write journal and practice writing these numbers. Let's count to number 7. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to add 2 more, 6, 7. So if you have 5, and then you bring 2 more, that becomes 7. All right. Again, I'm going to draw a little dot just for a starting point so you can see, but you don't have to draw a dot when you're starting number 7. Our starting place is on the top line. And the first thing we do is we make a line to the right. We trace that top line here and to the right. Very easy. Now the next part of a number 7 is to make a line down, but we're not going to go straight down. Remember, this is where we started? We're going to make a line that goes back right underneath where it started to the bottom line. That's called a diagonal line. Diagonal is not straight down, it's down and across. So we're going to make a diagonal line from here to here. Ready? Straight, but across to the bottom line. That's a diagonal line. So we start here, we go across to the right on the top line, and make a straight diagonal line down to the bottom line. And we have a number 7. All right. That one is pretty easy. Number 8 is a little tricky. Okay, so stay with me and hang in there. If you can make the letter S, that is halfway of making the number 8. Okay, let's count to number 8 first. 8 kind of looks like a snowman, but the middle and the bottom instead of the head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's try that again. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very good. Okay. I am going to, I'll show you on this one to start. Okay. I start a little bit under the top line and I come up and go to the left. I'm going backwards, just like when we write the letter S. Right, Samantha and Stella? Right, we start here, we go back, touch the top line, go around like a circle, and go in on the middle line. Then turn that line around, touch the bottom line, and once you get here, it'll be an S, but we're going to keep going. We're going to go up, around, we're going to cross on that middle line again, and come up and connect. So we have the number 8. Let me show you what it looks like here, okay? I'm not going to start on the top line. I'm starting a little bit under the top line, right here. Here I go. I'm going to go up and back. So remember, you're pulling back to the left. You're not going out that way, okay? We go out that way when it's a number 3. When it's an 8, we pull it back. So I start here, I go back to the top line, around, and then we're going to cross, get ready to cross on that middle line, just like when we make an S. So we start up here, go back, around, get to the middle line, go around, touch the bottom line, and start coming up. Now that's the letter S, right? Samantha and Stella, we have that S for your name. Now, round, you can trace it if you like an S. Let's try that again. Start here, around, come down, trace, touch the bottom. Now once you get here, you're going to still make that circle, but go back to that middle line. So we're going up to the middle line and around and close that. Watch it here. Start under the top line, touch the top line, around to the middle line, around back to the bottom line, up and around, cross the middle line, and a circle that connects back together. That is the number 8. Takes a little practice. Sometimes if you keep tracing it, it becomes like when you're riding a bike, you just get used to that same movement over and over again, and you make an 8. And maybe one day you'll be making figure 8s when you're skating. That would be really cool. So that's the number 8 today for bird watching. We're going to go to the next section of your bird journal. You're going to have your binoculars, you're going to have a journal, and you're going to have probably a pencil, I would suggest. Okay, so this time you're not keeping track of all the different birds that you see. You're looking for one bird that kind of hangs around for a little while. And hopefully if it's not raining, you'll be able to see a bird that's hanging around for a little bit of a while. You have to be really, really quiet though, and still when you do see that bird, because if you move fast and it sees you, it's probably going to try to fly away. So you get your binoculars and you find, you have to do that spy, I spy a bird. Once you spy a bird, then very quietly you're going to get your pencil and you're going to try to draw it the best you can in this little box. I'll show that to you in a little bit because there's certain shapes you can draw when you see a bird. Some of you did the bird drawing back from Monday or Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday, and that was really tough to draw. So if you could draw that bird, you certainly can draw this one. There's certain words here on the journal. One of them is location. That means, where is the bird? Is the bird on a bush? Is it on a wire? Is it on the porch? Is it in a nest? On the ground? In a tree? Wherever that bird is, tell your family and they're going to write it here for you. Okay? The next word says action. Action means, what is it doing? Is it singing? Is it eating? Does it have its eyes closed and just sleeping? Is it looking? Is it perched? Is it flying? Okay, so whatever it's doing, tell your family what it's doing, and they will write it here. Okay? The next thing you're looking at, this is why you have to make sure that it hangs around for a while, because you want to try to collect as much information about this bird as you can. Okay? The next thing says, what colors are on this bird? And very often, some birds are one color. I know, like when we look at the doves that sometimes come in my yard, they have a very kind of a smoky, soft gray color to them, and they're one color. But then there are birds that have many colors on them, or at least two colors. So if it's one color bird, you tell your family and they'll write that one color. If it's two colors or three colors, write the colors that are on that bird. The next word says sound. So let's say you're listening to the bird and it goes tweet, 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 or tweet, tweet, tweet. You're going to ask your family to try to write what the sound is like. Suppose it goes woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Then you try to write that sound, because many different birds make different sounds. They all have their own unique call. Some of them have multiple sounds, many ways, different sounds that they make. At the bottom it says species. It means what kind of bird it is. Don't worry if you don't know that yet. There are some, if you go to the Audubon Society or some of those websites, they will show you, even if you Google in types of birds in New England, they'll show you pictures of some of the birds and maybe even some of the sounds that they make. And if you could take all that information that you collected, it might help you to figure out what species of bird it is. There's some that are very close to each other. So let me show you. Drawing the bird can also help you to identify what species of bird it is. Okay? So usually with a bird, you think about the shape of its body, and the shape of its body is usually an oval, which is kind of a stretched out circle. Remember that from our math lessons? Okay? So sometimes the bird's body is a straight, almost oval that kind of goes like this, almost like an egg. And if you just make that very lightly, that can be the start of your drawing. Sometimes if a bird is kind of in this position, the oval goes like this. It's kind of a leaning oval. You'll see that a lot when a bird is perched in a tree. You might see this too, or even when they're walking on the ground. Not too often, but once in a while, you might see an oval that's lying down like this. That might be the body shape, okay? Once you figure out which way the body is going, then you're going to place a circle for its head, okay? So a circle would be here, and I think we were talking about the woodpecker, and very often when a woodpecker climbs the tree, you see that it's actually in this vertical position. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm taping this video a little bit earlier. It's not really Thursday at my house. It is actually Tuesday, and right now we're having a bad storm that's coming in, and you might be able to see in the window behind me that pine tree. It's blowing with the wind, and you might hear that rain. I love the sound of that. Okay, let's go to this bird shape. If this is your bird shape, the head is probably going to be somewhere over here, and then I can erase that. All right. And if this is the bird, and it depends which side the head is on, I'm going to put the head of the bird like this. And this might be a bird that is actually in its nest, crouched down. Right now, if the birds are outside, I bet this is how they would be in their nest, kind of crouched down and trying to protect itself from the elements. Now, birds have how many legs? Do they have 8 legs like a spider? Do they have 4 legs like a cat? No, that's right, they have 2 legs. Okay, so think about what, if you can see it's 2 legs, and if it's facing that way, you're probably going to see them like, you know, maybe like this. Okay, if you see their legs are usually somewhere around here. Okay, and their legs, if it's lying down, their legs might actually be back like this a little bit. Okay, so it's going to have 2 legs, and then its feet, it might have these little claws. Okay, you draw its feet. Over here, I'm going to go 1. Now this one might have webbed feet, if I'm maybe looking at a duck. Okay, it might have some webbed feet. So paying attention to what its feet looks like are really important. Here I'm going to put this bird right here. Okay, its little toes. If it has sharp claws, I don't know if any of you are going to see any hawks that close, but some of them have those little sharp claws on their feet. So draw what its feet looks like. The beak is a triangle shape. Sometimes it's very, very, very thin, and sometimes it's a really fat type of beak. So if it's a thin beak, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a straight line from my thin beak, and then I'm going to go almost where I started, but a little bit higher, and I'm going to make kind of like a little triangle shape here. 3 sides, a nice thin beak. Now suppose your bird has a really fat beak, then it's still going to be almost like a triangle, but it's going to be kind of like this. It might be much, much wider. Okay? And let's give this bird a little short beak. So some beaks are long, some beaks are wide and thick, some beaks are really short, and that's really helpful too when you're trying to identify the species of birds. How many eyes does a bird have? Good job. 2 eyes. So I'm going to draw its 2 eyes. Okay. I'm just going to draw 2 little dots so you can see them. And here you might only see one of them if the eye is on the other side. Draw it the way that you see it. Now birds need to fly, so they're going to have wings. And the wing I'm going to just do around and like this. Almost like half of a heart. And then I'm going to kind of connect it like that. Alright. I might only see part of the other wing. Maybe I see part of it over here, but not the whole wing because it's on the other side of the body. And the same thing here, I'm going to kind of go around, trace the shape of the bottom, and then go out, and then connect it. And then I don't see through their wing. Okay, like that. And here, maybe this bird has a little short wing. Maybe it doesn't go out that far. Okay, so the length of the wings, some have really long pointy wings, some have short wings. And they usually have tail feathers. Okay. Ooh, can you hear the thunder? Listen. You might hear that thunder. You might even hear my voice singing, "What's the weather like today?" It is stormy outside. I think I'm going to have to go sit by the window and watch this storm, because I love to watch thunderstorms. Alright, so we have the tail feathers. Once you draw your bird, then get your crayons out or your colored pencils or markers and start to draw where the colors are. Some of them even have like a little tuft on top of their head. Some of them don't. So all of those things will help you to identify the species. So if the bird has maybe red on the tip of its wings, then you would draw the red there. Maybe it has red only on the top of its head. Maybe it doesn't have red at all. Maybe it has, I don't have the colors with me, but if this was orange, maybe the breast is orange, and then I would color that part orange. Maybe it has some browns, and maybe it has a spotted pattern. So just kind of really pay attention to that bird and try to draw the patterns and all those details that you can. And that way, when you go back later on, you can look at your journal and you can say, oh, that bird had spots. It had brown. It had some grays and blacks in it. It was on the ground. It was hopping instead of running. Maybe it had a tuft on top of its head. All of those things are going to help you to identify the species. And like I said, there's wonderful apps out there. If you put North American bird watching, you might even be able to, if you go out with your families one day, maybe be able to look at the app and try to start really identifying what kind of birds are in your area. Tomorrow I will try to remember, I do have a little poster that I keep in my living room, right where the birds start to come by, and I keep it as a reference. So when I see the birds come by, I can look at my chart and I know those are birds that live in my area, and I go, oh, I know what kind of bird that one is, and I can help use those to try to identify. So, I have Charlotte's Web coming up next, and then I'll see you tomorrow for our Friday lesson. Hi, I'm going to read Chapter 8 today of Charlotte's Web, and Chapter 8 is called A Talk at Home. On Sunday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Arable and Fern were sitting at breakfast in the kitchen. Avery had finished and was upstairs looking for his slingshot. Do you know that Uncle Homer's goslings had hatched? Asked Fern. How many? Asked Mr. Arable. 7, replied Fern. There were 8 eggs, but 1 egg didn't hatch, and the goose told Templeton she didn't want it any more, so he took it away. The goose did what? Said Mrs. Arable, gazing at her daughter with a queer, worried look. Told Templeton she didn't want the egg any more, repeated Fern. Who is Templeton? Asked Mrs. Arable. He's the rat, replied Fern. None of us like him very much. Who's us? Asked Mr. Arable. Oh, everybody in the barn cellar. Wilbur and the sheep, and the lambs and the goose and the gander, and the goslings, and Charlotte and me. Charlotte? Asked Mrs. Arable. Who's Charlotte? She's Wilbur's best friend. She's terribly clever. What does she look like? Asked Mrs. Arable. Well, said Fern thoughtfully, she has 8 legs. All spiders do, I guess. Charlotte is a spider? Asked Fern's mother. Fern nodded. A great, big, gray one. She has a web across the top of Wilbur's doorway. She catches flies and sucks their blood. Wilbur adores her. Does he really? Said Mrs. Arable, rather vaguely. She was staring at Fern with a worried expression on her face. Oh, yes, Wilbur adores Charlotte, said Fern. Do you know that Charlotte said when the goslings hatched? I haven't the faintest idea, said Mr. Arable. Tell us. Well, the first gosling stuck its little head out from under the goose. I was sitting on my stool in the corner, and Charlotte was on her web. She made a speech. She said, I am sure that every one of us here in the barn cellar will be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of unremitting effort and patience on the part of the goose, she now has something to show for it. Do you think that was a pleasant thing for her to say? Yes, I do, said Mrs. Arable. And now, Fern, it's time to get ready for Sunday school, and tell Avery to get ready. And this afternoon you can tell me more about what goes on in Uncle Homer's barn. Aren't you spending quite a lot of time in there? You go there almost every afternoon, don't you? I like it there, replied Fern. She wiped her mouth and ran upstairs. After she had left the room, Mrs. Arable spoke in a low voice to her husband. I worry about Fern, she said. Did you hear the way she rambled on about the animals pretending that they talked? Mr. Arable chuckled. Maybe they do talk, he said. I've sometimes wondered. At any rate, don't worry about Fern. She's just got a lively imagination. Kids think they hear all sorts of things. Just the same, I do worry about her, replied Mrs. Arable. I think I shall ask Dr. Dorian about her the next time I see him. He loves Fern almost as much as we do, and I want him to know how queerly she is acting about that pig and everything. I don't think it's normal. You know perfectly well that animals don't talk. Mr. Arable grinned. Maybe our ears aren't as sharp as Fern's, he said. And that's the end of chapter 8. That was a very quick chapter. Tomorrow we will read chapter 9, which is called Wilbur's Boast. And a boast is kind of like when you brag or show off in the way that you speak. I wonder what Wilbur is going to boast about, what he's going to brag about. Any ideas? We'll see you tomorrow.